Superintendent's report.
So all good, a great start to the school year, as you've heard in subcommittee meetings, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, just it's tangible. I think everybody's so glad to be back and having some sense of normalcy. Middle school and high school have already had their back to school nights. They've had good participation and received positive feedback on those events. Elementary open house is tomorrow night. Just reminding people that there's an early dismissal at 1:10. It's the only time when we have a 1:10 dismissal so that the buses can get back to the high school. So also celebrate belonging in your community is also happening tomorrow evening. The Be Ready project will be sponsoring that. That'll take place on Main Street from 3 to 7. Food, music, friends, family, all celebrating the diversity and the wonderful partnership that we all have with our community. So if you can squeeze that in before you run to the elementary open house, that'd be great. Younger's going well. For TMS, they have 9 students with the first infraction, so it seems like they learned from last year. 1 with a second infraction, no suspensions, so that's wonderful. THS, we've had 46 students with their first infraction, 4 students with their second infraction, and 2 students with suspension, but that was related to many other issues as well. And spilled over, as we said it might. Last week, I was fortunate to attend the Feed the Children event at Price Right, which was coordinated by United Way. So talk about wonderful community partnerships. Huge number of volunteers from Price Right and the community, the mayor, Representatives Case Cook, Horn, and Lawrence Orton from Chamber of Commerce were all present. Families received 25 pounds of food as well as toiletries and children's books totaling $200,000. It was awesome, awesome, awesome. It's just wonderful to have that and to see that for our community members so desperately in need. We have a lot of families who just with inflation and just hard times, loss of job, things like that, are experiencing food insecurity. So to be able to give back is wonderful. And on Friday, Sue and I were asked to present to a group of superintendents about our district's success regarding chronic absenteeism as well as community family engagement. We're excited about that. Share all the good news that's going on in the district.
Office of Teaching and Learning.
Sure. I'm actually so excited to share this time, this month. And I was thinking about this earlier, actually, in my car here. Every August, or every summer when we start to plan PD for the opening of school, it's usually a very invigorating, energizing kind of thing to do. And it was again that this year, and I didn't realize over the past couple of years that it was such a burden because we had to give over so much of our time that's always devoted to all things teaching and learning to COVID mitigating strategies, right? So I think in addition to the school year starting off in a much nicer, calmer way, I think the teachers, because I know that the administrators feel such a relief that we can actually focus on what we were put here to do, right? So having said that, we kicked off August 30th with a variety of sessions, specifically tailored by level, due to the changes, the transitions, the staffing changes, and some of the operational things that are happening, particularly at this building. At the secondary level, there was a rotation of PD the 30th and the 31st for folks to, kind of just adjust to the new normal, some team building things, obviously some things that focused on instruction, on teaching and learning, but very specific to the needs of the middle and the high school. At the elementary level, dare I say, we focused on the basics of reading and math instructions. So we are back to basics. We are already, after having gone down that path a year ago, see the benefits of having done that. So more to come on that. We actually, I think I told you back in the spring, we've partnered with Literacy How, which is an organization based in Trumbull. Margie Gillis is a very well-known expert in the field of early literacy, and reading acquisition. And we've been fortunate to really establish a nice, strong bond with her. We are going to be working with her team throughout this year. We have our own literacy how coach who's coming into the Torrington schools 14 times throughout the course of the year to work with a team of about 15 to 20 who are going to be able to turnkey their learning in classrooms so that all of our elementary classrooms K-5 will be impacted by this at some point throughout the year. So what that looks like is there'll be like a Tuesday, Wednesday. She'll come in on Tuesday morning. There'll be some theory for the participants. And in the afternoon, they collaborate on lesson planning. And the very next day, they get into 6 classrooms and they model these lessons. So it's very exciting, very, very exciting for us. And everybody's going to benefit, not just our little learners, but ultimately, we're going to start to see the impact of this all the way up to high school. Their literacy hub is so excited about our passion and enthusiasm that they actually reached out last week and said, we're running an off-site training. We have 20 slots that we'd like to offer to Torrington, free of charge. So now we're able to actually send 20 more people to this same type of training. So we're really going to get some traction. So very excited about that. So we are going to continue, with that focus at the elementary level in November and February. And then at the it's all going to be around student engagement in some way. We also, and Kim may be able to speak a little bit more to this, are training everybody in human trafficking. So we started on August 30th with our paraeducators, some of our non-certified folks. So throughout the coming weeks and months, everybody on staff will have participated in human trafficking training, which it's sad that we have to do that, but I think people have been very, very appreciative of the opportunity. It's a heavy topic, but we need to do that. Assessment. Our STAR testing window closed today. We still have a couple of makeups to do. So once we get that data, we'll crunch the numbers and bring it to a future school improvement committee meeting. Our Smarter Balanced assessments were recently released by the State Department of Ed. The student score reports go home to families next week. So we will be bringing all that data as well to school improvement. I just want to give a quick shout out. Sue mentioned Friday, we're going to be talking about family engagement. Shout out to all of our home visitors. We have reduced our chronic absentee rate by just shy of 10% over the course of this year. Torrington is now below the state average for chronic absenteeism, which is something to celebrate. We have a long way to go, but so does the rest of the state have a long way to go because of the impact of the pandemic. One other just little highlight is because of our work and our success in that area, we were actually interviewed by a writer from the New York Times, and we will be featured in an article that's running on October 9th. Yeah, exciting.
Questions? Fantastic, that's great. Thank you. Special education update.
Okay, so in the packet, we have my normal tally. We usually begin our year with our numbers on October 1st. through 12 made 1 year's worth of growth or more in 1 year. So in other words, that gap was not widening. Okay, so we're happy to see that. And 31% of the students closed the gap even more. So that's great, trying to work towards that grade level. In math, it was 69% made 1 year or more, with 27% closing the gap by at least 10% or more. So again, closing that discrepancy. Also, our chronic absenteeism, though we know we have a long way to go, that's great news. This is again based on June, but at that point in June, Torrington was already being recognized for the decrease that we had shown, but our students with disabilities actually declined at a higher rate than overall in the district. So we were excited about that. We had a 24% drop. And we were also at that point recognized because our percentage of students that were chronically absent is below the state of Connecticut. So though we have a long way to go, we're moving in the right direction. The other thing I wanted to add about Literacy How, in addition to everything else that's going on, we were able to bring Literacy How in on November 8th to do a training on pre-reading, early reading strategies with our pre-K. So we're really excited about that. They're going to get a full day or a half day, I think, of professional development from Literacy How. So that's exciting. And then the next page, I just wanted to kind of give you just a little bit of a rundown of where we're focusing right now based on what was kind of going on at the end of the year with behaviors and whatnot. We talked about a lot of different ways to try to intervene to make improvements. So I asked for input from all of the schools, the supervisors, to see what was going on to support behavior across all the schools. And you get my little,
Yes.
okay.
Love it, special.
Supporting proactively engaging collaboration in all locations, special, each day. So in pre-K, before school began, one of our BCBAs worked really hard on behavior strategies. So our new little pre-K people were coming in with strategies in place day one to hopefully stop some of those behaviors before they could even occur. And that was a positive start for them. In Torrington, our BCBA had something that they referred to as Candy, Coffee, and Connections. This was a voluntary activity that the BCBA developed really for the new teachers, but it was opened up to everybody, and a lot of teachers on their own time went and wanted to go to it and felt that it was helpful. And it was, you could see it was on all kinds of different interventions for behaviors for the regular classroom. And there was positive feedback about that. At Forbes, the social emotional behavioral team, which meets regularly now, identified the need for school-wide lessons on what we say matters and has consequences. So sometimes I think that maybe even at this level, there might be some impulsivity or just not thinking that, oh, if I say that, I might really get into trouble. So they are looking to really create some lessons for all students on being responsible for what you say so that you don't get yourself in trouble and hurt other people's feelings. Vogel and Southwest worked hard at the end of last year on successful transition up to the new school, and the behavioral teams have been collaborating on behavior strategies to be implemented into the regular classroom and really trying to provide the opportunity for RBTs to do what they're intended to do, which is to proactively go in and model how to handle the behaviors. So kind of going along with that, if you look at the, actually, I'm going to jump down to the high school before I do the middle school. If you think about it that way, at the high school, we used to last year have a lot of the RBTs spending time in the ISS room. And so with the new leadership there, they really collaborated on better ways to cover the ISS room, which has now allowed the RBTs there to really put more student-centered things in place and suggest proactive rather than reactive strategies for the high school. And then at the middle school, they also just recently had a collaborative meeting with the building administration, the BCBA, the SPED supervisors, and they developed kind of a protocol for the RBTs because they have the most in the district of what are the highest priorities and what we do if this RBT is out and who's going to go where and how we're going to cover that. And they felt that it was a very productive meeting where they really have a better idea of how they're going to tackle behaviors. So I just wanted you to know some of the things we have going on to try to support some of the behaviors. And also TMS is also creating a Best Buddies Club, which is going to be another nice idea rather than just the sports for the unified sports. This is maybe for kids that aren't or don't want to do the athletic piece. So excited about that. And that's it.
So you say 139 exited this from special education. Are they being tracked to see how they're doing in regular ed? Is there a system? in
Well,
place?
so of course, school-wide, we always have that going on, so they'll take their assessments and whatnot. If there was an issue, they would be brought back up to the team. Really, we have not seen that. There have been few situations where a kid has struggled. But usually, sometimes interventions can be put in, sometimes maybe a 504 can be put in place because they might not need the individual instruction, but maybe still some accommodations in place for them. So far, we're doing well.
Great. Yes, thank you.
I have a question, just comes to mind when I was listening, you talked about Forbes School and what they're doing, the school-wide lessons, what we say matters and has consequences. Is it typical for school-wide SEL lessons to be delivered during, is that class time or when is that done?
I'm not really sure. I know that they came up with the need for it because we're not just talking about identified students.
Right.
That there are at that level some children that just make comments and don't realize if you say that can get you into trouble. So I know that they were looking at different opportunities where they might be able to do it. And they were also looking for different materials and whatnot that they might use. I don't know if Michael, if you have anything else that you can add to it. I know you met with the team.
I think we have SEL time built into all of our classroom schedules, to make sure that we are building community within our classrooms. I think when you think about the uptick in, unfortunately, violence in schools, and we can think back to probably a history of different events the past 10, 15 years. Kids don't necessarily always understand when they make threatening statements, the severity that it might have in terms of that ripple effect on those around us and within the classroom. So we're trying to be proactive in that approach in terms of making sure kids are aware, not from a punitive standpoint, but this way we can be more proactive in terms of those solutions so that they're aware and can understand that their words do have power.
At all of our schools, and we've seen this, it's not just Torrington, it's not just in Connecticut, it's across the state, right, across the nation, where we really see the need to develop those social skills because we take it for granted. And I think we did pre-COVID, but now it's in our face. And like you were saying, just some of the things where words really do matter, and you need to learn to communicate effectively. And some of the words that kids flippantly may say, people can find very offensive. So
I wonder, John, maybe you can flesh this out for me. I'm trying to remember, when does the board approve that type of curriculum? So like, we're looking for SEL curriculum to do with all of the students. Wouldn't that come to the board at some point?
I think we did present, was the second step. There was something that we were using K-5 just to ensure a structure. It was a go-to.
And there isn't anything specific in second step really for that, but they're seeing it as a need, so they're trying to proactively address it. And it may not be a curriculum. It may be, your mental health professionals meeting with the children and talking about, this is what we have to watch, that people can be heard.
And it's a supplemental resource. It's
Right.
not like it's a
No.
textbook or it's like an adoption. It's a resource because especially during the time of COVID, we saw there was a desperate need. So here's another resource. Here's a structure to allow you to have that conversation.
Sometimes it's as simple as a read aloud, like an easy read, just a picture book where the characters are getting themselves into a situation. Sure. And then the conversation or the discussion can really be about the story, but it can be generalized to their own.
So I guess I think I just want to, maybe we can talk about this at a different point, but if there's something that's being presented school-wide for all of our students as part of the structured class time, it needs to go through the same approval process that we would have done for other things, and maybe this did, I just don't recall it. So that's why I wanted to ask about that, and I'm not sure, are there normally times when mental health professionals address students who aren't exhibiting disciplinary issues, where we have mental health professionals come in and address entire classrooms of students?
So we have
Class time?
behaviorists on our staff now. So we have behaviorists who can actually come in and evaluate behaviors or difficulties or just give strategies on how to address XYZ issues. And we have 3 behaviorists on staff now. And that's been very supportive. I mean, Laura can speak to that.
Yeah,
more.
absolutely. And then you had already spoken about the second step. And that was something that had been approved and before I even came here, correct? That is done with the classes, right?
It's a supplemental resource
Right,
that we
right.
were using at elementary.
Correct.
I don't know when that started.
Well, I think
When
some of
it was
these things have morphed, and I would like to see it, we could put this on our upcoming agenda for maybe a different meeting, but it used to be one thing to maybe use something a few years ago in a very small group with a handful of kids that are exhibiting issues versus now bringing something to the classroom and doing it school-wide with all of our students. So maybe that's something we can talk about again. I don't want to tie it.
I do have a question, Laura, also, because we put all these behaviors in, we put all these RBTs in. As part of the process, I know that their goal is to look at the needs of the individual student that they're looking to put a behavioral plan in place for. But is there any consideration or team that looks at the impact of the behavioral plan of that specific student on those other kids? That are
So
in the
yes, I
same
think the
classroom?
behavioral team does that. I think that this year with the building administration, it's going to occur regularly, that they're gonna go over, and we're even gonna do it with central office, where we're gonna review behavioral data, and we're always looking at that. In addition to that, a lot of the behavioral things that we've come across are tier 1 issues, which are in the general classroom. And so some of the things that I spoke to about the trainings that are going in are to teach how to.
But what I'm talking about is the kids that aren't the behavioral problem. So if we're providing all of these interventions to keep these kids in the room, is there also an analysis done on the impact of that to the kids who are not the behavioral issues? I think
Yes, and so
holistically the
it's
question.
also done on an individual basis, so they will look at every single case and what the impact might be and where we need to move forward. So, I mean, I really can't give you any
I'm
confidential.
not looking,
Yeah.
I'm not really
Yeah,
asking
so-
this for the kids with the behavioral.
No, I
issues.
understand
I'm
that, I
asking it
understand
for
that.
the rest of
Yeah,
the kids.
obviously, the impact, the whole thing is looked at. And if a child's needs cannot safely be met in, a classroom, so that it's such an impact, then they would look at, does the child need a different setting? So we would do that, but, that's something that there's a process for, and it's significant, and we want to just make sure that we've done what we need to do, knowing that all along, other things need to be put in place so that everybody can be safe. So that's what we do. If a concern pops up, we jump right on it and we talk about what do we need to do next. Do there need to be safety plans in place? What do we need to do? So yes, that's how we handle it. Okay.
Other questions, John?
Safety isn't the only issue. I think you're alluding to some academic things too, and I'll be looking forward to the school improvement committee meeting to seeing if our test results might be showing positive or negative impacts of the amount of time we're spending on social and emotional learning.
Any other questions, comments, questions? Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
The resources update.
Thank you. So typically, I give you guys, our vacancies from last month and then, where we are now. But since this is the beginning of the year, what I thought would be good to tell the story of all the vacancies we had to fill over the summer, which is what you have on the right side. So every vacancy that occurred between March and September, that's the total number of positions we had to fill over the summer. And then on the left is what we currently have right now left. So 94% of our certified openings were filled before the first day of school, first 2 grades. So that was pretty tremendous.
That's awesome. Really, that's
Absolutely.
amazing
Yeah.
in comparison.
And it was a team effort, the HR team, the administrators, everybody doing the interviews. It was phenomenal. So but we had strong candidate pool. We brought in some great people. For those of you that were a complication, we had quite a few Torrington High School grads and people who were substitutes with us or, tutors or had other roles with us, student taught with us. So it was great to see a lot of familiar people coming back in into these permanent roles. So that was exciting. The separations that you see for the classified staff are the separations that we've had since September 1st, just so that you can see. We have had some, and some of those were they came right after September 1st. So there's 4 of the special ed paras, 1 cafeteria worker, 2 lunch monitors. So those are recent classified vacancies.
Kim, where is that?
On the first page,
In the gray.
in the gray, where I give you the separations.
Oh,
Lori
right.
had asked for that.
Yeah,
So,
we both didn't see the gray.
Yeah.
I think our eyes just went to the white.
Sure.
Thank you.
and,
Sorry.
and for the record, the science vacancy that's here also was an after September 1st vacancy, so. We are working to fill that and more to come on that, so. And then you have the June absences to give you the update for the last month of the school year, and then that is the year-to-date number for the whole 21-22 school year for substitute fill rates and absences. And then as far as our initiative updates, we are continuing to cast the net for our remaining vacancies. Obviously, classified is where we're struggling the most. We've advertised on CT hires, LinkedIn, social media. We've done a new flyer. We are attending the Winston Job Fair on October 5th for classified staff. So that's an outdoor job fair that they're having. So we're going to be attending that. We are going to focus on retention for the 22-23 school year. So I already do have a check-in scheduled with the new teachers that we hired for the first week of October. I'm just going to be doing kind of a check-in. Something great that happened, in your first week, something, that you wish you had gotten, what can we do to help you? Is there anything else you need? And just making sure that we're having those conversations. Time and attendance absence management. We have put in the updates to our workflows for absence approvals and absence reasons. We did a training for all the administrators on FMLA, ADA, workers' comp over the summer. So we gave them all that information, and we're planning for the fall to add the substitutes and the tutors in. We just had a few technical glitches that we're working out, but we're hoping to have that done in October, where we will have everybody on the time and attendance system. And then we are also working on a plan for eliminating some of our additional paper forms to be able to provide electronic approvals. And then wellness, we have planned our first wellness event for staff for the 22-23 school year. We have yoga on October 3rd, and that'll be a 6-week program. And we are also finalizing our flu clinics for October 27th and 28th, and working on finishing up the rest of the calendar with mindfulness, Zumba, stress management, and our annual walking challenge. And our staff wellness, Takina and myself are also collaborating with Sue Ferguson on the wellness committee for the policy. We're going to be attending those meetings and working together so that we can make sure that we're in alignment with how we're handling wellness for students and fit together, and also aligning that with our staff wellness. And then I don't know if there's any questions on the second page, just on the comparison between Kelly Services and Torrington, because I know the board had asked for that information. And then I did give you staff turnover for the 21-22 school year, the full staff turnover by category. Just to put it in perspective, I did Google to see if there was any data out there on the national average for teacher turnover for the 21-22 school year, and it looks like the numbers are coming in at 21.5%. So we are almost half that. So we've actually, as tough as our year was, we've actually retained more than other districts. So I think we're doing some good things, and we've got some great new people with us.
Just one question, with your separations?
Which, the one on the first page?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So is the total full-time employees required 7, or is it 7 plus 4?
7 is how many current vacancies we have, but 4 of those are people that resigned after September 1st.
Okay, so it's still a total of 7, it's not a total of
Correct, yes.
11.
7 is the total vacancies right now for special ed parents.
Well, a comment and a question. I'll start with the comment, and that's that if we're going to be focusing on retention, we're going to have to make sure that administrators are really sensitive to the support that new and struggling teachers need. Those teachers, which is not to say they're not doing everything they can, but that's such an important part of retention. The other question is on the high school opening. Now, high school certification, we're looking for a biology teacher, chemistry teacher, physics. I mean, those are separate concentrations, right?
So, yeah, the position is posted as general science with the biology preferred.
Okay.
And most of the, like, chemistry and physics can teach general science. So we have some flexibility, but we have it posted as a general science with biology preferred.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? I do have a question.
Sure.
Because we keep talking about paraprofessionals, RBTs, and then we have special ed paraprofessionals, ELL, bilingual paraprofessionals. So on the right side, we have 29 paraprofessional vacancies.
That's what we had for the whole summer that we had to fill.
Right, so is
Yeah.
that regular paras, or does that encompass?
It encompasses all of
RBTs?
them, yes.
So could we get a breakdown at a future meeting of the 29 paraprofessionals? What did we fill? Meaning, are 5 of them RBTs, or 5 of them special ed, just so that we know how those got filled?
Absolutely.
Any other questions on this report? Thank you very much again. Okay, monthly financials. Most of you were at the meeting. Did anyone have any questions, specific questions on monthly financials? Thank you. I think you did a great job of breaking it down. We appreciate that. Special education wheelchair accessible van.
So I brought before the board meeting last week. Handicap accessible. And we're looking at task 4, and they have us in the queue. And we're able to have one hydraulic lift for wheelchair accessibility, and then we also have some extra seats if we have some students and Laura finds the need to use it for other purposes. So that's where we're at. I spoke to somebody at the Park and Motor Vehicles to make sure that we're going to be compliant with everything and we're going to use it. So I think I have all the information we need to get this up and going. The board gives us the approval.
How often is it, do we need a bus like that? Is it every day or is it as needed?
Sure,
Yeah,
so
okay. Sure, go ahead.
sorry, Scott, where it came, kind of became apparent was last year. Because there's been a huge reduction in the number of not only bus drivers, but also buses that are available. Last year, I had a student who needed a wheelchair van, and we went through every single possible place that we can think of. I went all over, thought outside the box of different options other than a van or a bus. And we were not able to get the child to school, and the child had to have homebound instruction. So I said, we really need to do something with this. And at that point, I received a grant to be able to fund it. So we decided it would be useful. In addition to that, I also explained at SIP that our 18 to 22 program, we've been trying to really develop that over the past few years. We now have multiple community work sites that the students can go into, but we can't have the whole class of 15 kids go at one time. So having the additional van and having the staff in that program trained to drive that van, we can have one small group go to work at Walmart and one small group, work at a different, on our delis and the different community sites that we have to develop their work skills. So I said, it won't be sitting there, even if we don't need it for a run for students, we definitely have a use for it.
Okay, with that said, how often do we need the wheelchair accessible portion of that?
It depends on if at that particular moment, we have a child that we need to get to school in a wheelchair. Right now, I have a couple, 2 students particularly that are home, receiving homebound because of different medical issues. We are expecting that they will come back, and we're already worried about how we will transport them. So knowing that in the future, we will have this option, even though it's not going to be here this year. But, here we go again, another year that we are trying to figure out how to get a child here. And if, once that child needs that, it would be every day.
Right, and you're also using the van, or once we get it, if should the board approve, we'll be using that for internships and job opportunities for kids to actually go out to various sites. So we have some transportation, but the sped department has been expanding what the opportunities are for our high school students in special programs. So it would be great to have that extra van because it has seats for students to sit as well. So that would be an additional use that really happens weekly.
Just based upon the bus contract, there are wheelchair accessible buses that are part of our contract
They are.
that we're obligated to utilize.
And we
Paying for
have,
it, right?
we do, whenever we can get them.
Do we need an excess of what's in our contract?
We need another one, yes,
Yes,
yes. Because remember that the buses are used for pre-K during the day as well. So it's not just the runs in the morning and the afternoon. We have runs in the middle of the day as well. Right?
You all set, Glenn?
Sure, thank you.
Ed Advance has 1 million of those vans.
Yeah, we
None
called
of
them.
We've looked into that.
Yes,
None of those would
absolutely.
be available.
we called them and, often it's like, well, we can provide a driver, but we don't have another van. So we've run up against that. And it was more of an issue last year. Right now, we don't have too much need for one. However, at any given point, like I said, we're gonna have these 2 little guys come back and we're gonna need transport for them. So it's, who's gonna be available. And then in addition to the morning and the afternoon and the pre-K, there are times that a student may have a reduced day. And so they may be leaving at an alternate time and they need to be transported. So really to have that additional resource will be wonderful.
I wasn't thinking instead of getting this van, I was thinking while.
Yeah,
while
we
waiting
tried,
for it.
trust me. I mean, we called everybody. Other directors were actually talking about contacting limo companies because there was such a shortage to be able to get children to school. So it was crazy, but it's a little bit better now, but there's still a shortage.
Any other questions about this item? It's also an action item this evening, so now's the time. the update on the replacement roofing update is that we aren't gonna do an update tonight because we have a meeting next week and then we will decide if we're either gonna call a special meeting or move it back to subcommittee. We just wanna gather some more information before we talk about this.
We talked about the other night.
It's right, it's a continuation, but John and I and Sue and John are going to a meeting next week and then we'll decide how we move forward.
I asked a question about the meeting last week at the Facilities Committee. I wanted to see the recorded version of that, and that is not yet available.
It may not be, as,
The facilities. one?
yeah, was it
I
available?
watched it.
Oh,
You know what happened? It was
Just-
one long meeting.
No, that was, you watched it on Vimeo, but I'm wondering if the recording, you watched it in recording
No, I
watched
watched it the next day
the next day?
on
Okay,
recording. It's
okay.
the top one.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, whoa, an hour, however, 100 minutes. I thought, one meeting? And then I just went right into the gym. So,
Thank you.
access,
100
that's great.
meeting, 100
So you
minutes.
two pretty
Yeah.
much together on that. I didn't know, John, too, if there was anything else you wanted to add to that. We could just better
Yeah,
have all the
let's just wait,
information,
yeah,
wait.
until next week, that makes more sense.
Is that both E and F you're talking about? Or no, D and E?
No, just D.
Oh.
E is retro commissioning survey, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
John?
Yeah, so the brief recap on that, for, I think most of you were at the Facilities Committee, was that we entered into an agreement with Eversource to do a retro commissioning study of Torrington Middle School to find energy saving measures within the building. This is something that, this is a program that they've been running for years. I've done this program in another district and had really huge success in savings. What's resulted out of this is that the preliminary engineering study came up with a project that's our portion of the cost is around $100,000, $103,000, with a energy savings annually into the building of about $50,000 a year. So it's a 2-year buyback, and then that's $50,000 reduction in our energy costs in our budget. A lot of it is taking better control of the HVAC system, looking at things that potentially expel energy out of the building and keeping that energy in the building for use in the building rather than that wasting of it by blowing it out of the building. So that's that's the long and short of it. If anybody has any questions, I can certainly let you know. Eversource will be, if we approve this and we fund, right now there's 8 measures. If we fund all 8 measures, Eversource will pay 100% of the engineering for the next phase of the engineering for it. And they will pay a portion of the measures. So about $50,000 worth of measures would be paid for out of CEEF fund money.
Questions? Thank you, John. TMS blinds. Someday we will no longer talk about TMS windows or TMS blinds.
Okay, so as you know, the 5-year-long window project is complete. We don't have to talk about windows and facilities anymore. But now we have to talk about this. So as part of the window project, the original blinds that were there, which actually were there from the start of the construction of that building in '92, were really they were really dilapidated. They needed to come down in order to replace the windows and to try to get them put back up. A lot of them were damaged, broken. And so the decision was to just keep the blinds down because they were just so bad. and to look at replacing blinds in the building. So we found a state contractor, and we got a price from him, $51,000.
Thereabouts.
$51,600, somewhere around there. Is that a good
Sounds
guess?
about right. Yep.
And this is for all of the, it's 126 windows for all the blinds, so it would be the blinds and the install. The lead time on it is 4 to 6 weeks on the blinds, and then I would say about a week to a week and a half on install, and then we would have blinds. And so the big focus on this is that we have all of this electronic equipment, right? All our kids are using computers and we have smart boards. And depending on where they are in the building, what they're coming in, it does get difficult to see those. So these are a light filtering blind. They filter down to about 3%. So it's not a darkening blind, but they do offer some level of security as well, because you can't really see into the room, but you can see out. So that's kind of a neat feature of it.
Any questions? Go ahead, Sue.
Just one, I didn't think to ask last week. Do you have a schedule on when they'll put them in after school
It will happen,
weekends?
yeah, it'll happen after school.
And they're okay with that?
Okay, Torrington Lodge-Troyer. I mean, you, yeah.
So in your packet is a proposal from an architect who was also the same architect that did the Lockfoyer project for Torrington Middle School. That project is a shovel-ready project where we just need to work out logistics on time frame. This project is not. It needs some architectural engineering work in order to put this in place. $99,700, I think. $9,700 is roughly the price to do that architectural design work, get ready for an RFP package for bid. Provided that that gets approved, our timeframe to complete both of the projects would be this coming summer. Definitely the Torrington project this coming summer. The middle school project, we have to work out some logistics. We might be able to get that sooner.
Questions on that? Thank you. New course proposal, The Wonderful World of Teaching.
This one's not.
I don't know, John, did you want to take it or want me to take it?
Well, I think the name says it all, but you can take it after that.
So in the spring, we had, or actually it might have even been last winter, we had brought forward to school improvement a new course proposal that was connected to a commercially available curriculum. And school improvement, some of the school improvement committee members were not happy with that particular curriculum. One of the committee members suggested that we write our own. In that moment, it seemed a little overwhelming, but then I met with Wayne.
I think you used the
and
word crazy.
Kim. Met with Wayne Spletstozer and Kim over the summer, and we said, you know what, we can probably knock this out. So we rolled up our sleeves and we started to work on it. We're not quite finished, but the reason we bring it forward now is Wayne really wants to start to drum up interest among the students, because it's a one semester course and he wants to get kids excited about it for the spring semester. So we've been able to look at the outline of the